What's up, everyone? NanMan here, and we are back with some modern gameplay. This time, we've got Tron versus Through the Breach. So I'm sure you guys have been seeing all the stuff with how Modern Horizons 3 has shifted and changed everything, especially the Tron list that of old is now this colorless monstrosity of hate. I say that because it's like a more of a prison-style deck than anything else here. But Through the Breach has come and gone. It's tweaked, it's changed. There's a couple different variations of it, but this is kind of the newest version that has been rising up in speed and power because, you know, you get access to kind of a little bit more of an Eldrazi package with it. So we're going to see things starting off here with the Devourer of Intellect, kind of our newest addition of Eldrazi power that, hey, if this is in your opening hand, beginning of your upkeep, you get to be able to kind of set up, look at your top 4 cards, exile everything except for one. That one card goes on top. But we get to start out with a power plant into a map, and then here's a tower follow-up. So we're going to have a Tron on turn 3. Our opponent has their Eldrazi Temple. They could be able to have a secondary temple and hit us with a Thought Knot Seer, but looks like it's a setup turn with Ancient Stirrings coming out here. Of course, all deck lists that you're seeing for the videos are up on our Moxfiled, so if you're not following our Moxfiled, you should consider making an account and following us over there. Also, you can just see the link if you just want to look at it, if you don't want to make that. And there, we do end up finding at least a Thought Knot Seer. So we are under the assumption a Thought Knot is going to be hitting us next turn, but we will be popping this map, go getting the mine, the missing piece, because 1 + 1 + 1 equals 7. Everybody knows that. What is our payout here, though? What do we spend all of that mana on? Trinisphere, not really useful in this matchup. Like we talked, that's what we were talking about earlier. What are the hate cards? What are the prison-style cards that we're running against our opponent? Things like Trinisphere, things like Chalice of the Void. You know, like there's these cards that are designed to slow down and stop our opponents for us to be able to do things like cast Emrakul's and stuff like that. Do a quick check through the sideboard because, hey, let me telegraph that I have a Karn in hand, and we're going with this artifact toolbox strategy, which is what Tron has been for the longest time. As soon as Karn, the Great Creator, came out, we got to turn into a nice little toolbox deck. And I, tapping it, hey, we don't need to float mana. Let's just tap these 2 lands, get 4 mana, and be good to go. So what is the option? What do we pick up here? There's a couple of options. Stonebrain is always a smart one if you want to be able to just say, hey, you can't cast Through the Breach. That's definitely a possibility. We go for the liquid metal coating to try to slow down and stop and shut down what our opponent is doing here. There's a talisman. There's a liquid metal coating. All right, 3 mana into 2 mana. Then, of course, 1 floating. Tap the talisman. So we have 2 mana. And untap upkeep. On your upkeep, I would like to turn your lovely little land into an artifact. So you may not tap it. Because, of course, our Karn the Great Creator says activated abilities of artifacts your opponent control cannot be activated. All right, we're both sitting here with our temples. Eldrazi Temple, get some extra mana here. So we're in this position where the talisman of our opponent cannot be activated. So we're in this like commanding position. Advantage meter is on our side. However, they could still start ramping up and building up and have an explosive turn. So this is, me doing things a little bit out of order here. We're doing, so if you're playing the deck, the way things work is Karn's +1 ability. Until your next turn, up to one target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. With Liquid Metal Coating, I turn a land into an artifact, uptick Karn, and turn that artifact land into a creature. It's a 0/0. No converted mana cost, and will immediately die. So we can start popping and blowing up lands. We're going to do our own Kozilek's Commands, Dueling Kozilek's Command, a newest addition to list of being able to set up. It's very powerful. You could do it at instant speed. You could do it at sorcerer speed if you wanted to, and then just spend all that mana that you set up for. But we're going to get a little bit of scrying and then drawing cards. Disruptor Flute is actually pretty decent. Again, we can name Through the Breach and stuff like that. But One Ring is kind of one of those we are happy to be able to set up for. So we, of course, get to draw a card off of Kozilek's Command. And then we'll get to draw for turn. So get the One Ring. It's like, all right, none of this matters. We're set. The problem is we have a threat, the Devourer of Destiny. We could play it out, but I think we were looking for other dumps. Pop map, play tower. So 6, 7, 8, 8, 9 mana, or 11 mana if we cast an Eldrazi spell. There's the One Ring. Yeah, there we go. Trying to use the mana correctly, just in case we don't know what we draw, if we want to use that Eldrazi Temple or not. So let's draw a card, get set up here. Hey, there's the Emrakul. Emrakul, we're rocking the Promised End in this list. I know a lot of lists are trying out the world anew and running the Underworld Cookbook. Let's use the Madness cost to get it out. It's, it's Eldrazi. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to how that is played. Personally, I feel like it's all you play what you want to play in the big dumb Eldrazi slot, right? So we go to our opponent's turn, where we can then look at their hand and start, casting their spells and, Mindslaver them essentially here for the old school players that know what Mindslaver is. All right, Double Thought Knot, an Emrakul. We got some lands, a Waste, Kozilek's. So let's play land. Let's cast this. Pop in that. Can you all hear Sophie screaming in the background? That's her. Hey, I found this toy snake. I want to bring it to you. All right. All is Dust is one of the options. We'll put that at the bottom. I mean, it really, we could have just had them get it, but it's like, hey, you want another Thought Knot Seer? Here you go. You get more Thought Knot Seers. The play probably would have been just yeah, we'll make sure that you get a useless card, because All This Dust is useless against them. Ancient Stirrings is a good draw. You got to set up, look for something here. Look at those top 5. Pick that colorless card, whether it's a artifact or an Eldrazi or a land. Yeah, it's we're not so worried about things. I guess they played their land. Drawing some cards. We're looking for some more threats here, but Emrakul Promised End is at least a nice. Hey, here's 13 damage. Right? Here's a clock for you. Let's blow up. I mean, probably it doesn't really matter between colored and the waste, because the forest, Cerulean Forest there, you can tap 4 colorless mana anyway. So yeah, and we got the setup. So shout out to my buddy Chris, who came over and we were practicing and grinding out some games. I had a couple of buddies that came over, Ruben and Chris, and we were able to, practice and play a lot of different matchups and decks. This is one of them, Through the Breach versus Tron, because, you know, these decks are cool decks and we wanted to showcase them a little bit more. Let us know if there's other decks that you would like to see showcase on the channel. We're trying to show you a variety of decks as much as possible, but we get in these little tunnels for a little bit there where it's like, oh, here's a bunch of prowess decks, or here's a bunch of amulet matchups, or it's all hardened scales all the time, right? So we do have those periods. But if there's other decks that you would like to see, let us know. We'll see about trying to showcase them a little bit more on the channel. But we both get to start out with the Devourer of Destiny, the nice little setup here. How are we going to look up and prepare for our first turn? Because if you're going first and you're doing this, you're at least getting to set up your draw for next turn. If you're going second, you're going to be setting up the very first card that you get to get on your turn. So you can be like, all right, am I, in the Tron case, am I setting up for a Tron land? Am I setting up for a threat? You know, where are we going? Do I need to dig for stuff? Through the Breach is just trying to rush up and try to be able to cast Through the Breach as quickly as possible. So you could be setting up for that. You could be setting up to draw a lot of cards. Maybe you're getting Ancient Stirrings, Consulate Command up at the top. Lots of choices. Uggin's Labyrinth. We've pitched this, of course, Devour, and here's a Stone Brain. So let's Spider-Man meme as we do the exact same play here. Here's our nice little Uggin's Labyrinth into a Stone Brain. Stone Brain, very powerful. Of course, we can be able to strip the Through the Breach there. One colorless floating. And a Boseiju. That's a very, very powerful card here. Of course, gives opponent a land, but getting rid of the Stone Brain, making sure we still have access to Through the Breach is very important. We're joking about. Thanks for the one life that you gave me. Yeah, we joke. It's like, all right, now it's your turn. Draw the Boseiju. Let's keep it going. We don't draw the Boseiju, but we draw a Haywire Mite here. So let's start kind of working towards Tron again. Talisman. Yeah, let's exile that, gain some more life. Yeah, it's like, I feel like the Haywire Mite there is fine to use now. We don't want Stone Brain to blow up because you just got to like pick something and strip away all copies of it. Thought Knot, though, comes out, and we immediately get rid of our Karn Liberated. It's Karn Liberated and Dismember. Now, we count up, it's like, what are you at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 mana. We're not as worried. You can't cast Karn next turn. You got to spend the resources to at least have map pop, but at least Karn getting stripped away is the safe bet in the long run. There's still a Dismember, so we know, okay, we could at least get hit with a Dismember. Our opponent will end up drawing a card when Thought Knot leaves. But the One Ring is very nice. So taking a turn off, essentially, and not popping the map. But this maybe gets us to draw into a land that we could then use to pop the map. But we don't find the land, so we end up skipping our draw step here. Or skipping our land adventures there. So there, a One Ring versus One Ring. Let's do it. This is just a Spider-Man meme game, guys. We're just sitting there pointing at each other and being like, you're just going to do the same thing as me? All right. It's a mirror matchup without being a mirror matchup. But let's dig some more. Trinispheres are so useless in this matchup. This was the point where I was going through it and going, why did I not just sideboard these out? I know I want to keep toolbox cards available in my sideboard if I get a Karn, but really these are just dead draws. They do not help. In this matchup, everything that my opponent is casting is more than 3 mana with the exception of Ancient Stirrings, and I don't really care about them paying 3 mana for an Ancient Stirrings. That doesn't really help us. So we go and search up and find a mine. Yeah, so now we were going through the discussion about, I was debating about another Ugin's Labyrinth and getting that boost of 2 mana, but I don't think it really matters in right, as opposed to me trying to set up and search for Tron, because in the long run, me getting the Tron is going to be more impactful than me doing this little build up here. All right, One Ring activations coming out from both players. Drawing cards, digging for answers. We have enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the Through the Breach. What do we dump down? Everybody's favorite spaghetti monster. Yeah, there's the Emrakul. And this is, of course, the Aeon's Torn. So it's the 15/15 and flying. Protection from colored permanents. Annihilator 6. Hey, guess how many permanents there are? 6. So let's scoop it up. That's, that's the power of the Through the Breach. Sometimes you're just like, well, did my Through the Breach resolve? Okay, I guess I win here. It's like a 5 mana win the game. So that means we are going into game number 3, and all 3 games our Tron list was able to utilize the Devourer of Destiny. Ship away some cards, set ourselves up here. Urza Saga is a nice one. Of course, gives us access to the map. You can make some constructs. Grove coming out and gaining some life. Another Ancient Stirring setup turn for our Through the Breach player. So again, like if you're new to the Through the Breach list, it's going to be a lot of turns of just setup into one explosive OTK burst damage, 1 turn kill style here, right? We saw it last turn. Here's the Through the Breach. Here's the big Emrakul, and its whole goal is to set up towards that. So using things like Ancient Stirrings, using things like the Kozilek's command, right? Doing these setups here to build up towards that. Thought Knot Seers and things like that are nice disruptive plans that'll help build towards it, keep delaying your opponents while also being able to have threats and bodies out there. In normal matchups, things like All Is Dust come in handy to help delay your opponents. Same thing for our Tron list to do things. But this is a sideboard card that I did not use before, but we are using it now. We swapped our Trinisphere for this. So Ensnaring Bridge, creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can attack. So if you're trying to OTK me with an Emrakul, a 15/15, I'm not going to have 15 cards in my hand. You are not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to find a way around this. So it's like, all right, how are we gonna get rid of this? Well, there are things like Karn. There are things like our Haywire Mites. Like that, we have our ways that once we get into a commanding position, a good enough position, we can be able to do that. Now, we do have to be careful though, because if we go and try to attack or something like that, our opponent could be like, Through the Breach, here's our Emrakul to block, or here's an Ulamog to block with, or something like that. So like, Ulamog being a 7/7 is a little bit scarier when we have the One Rings and we can draw up and get. It's not unreasonable for a Tron deck to have 7 cards in hand later on in the game. So there are definitely still lines the Through the Breach player has, but they're gonna have to jump through a lot more hoops and work much harder if they are going to go through things. But this One Ring help. We are under the assumption that we're going to get hit with a Thought Knot Seer next turn, and we're not going to let that happen. We know that, of course, there's the Thought Knot Seer because of the Ancient Stirrings there, but the One Ring helps protect us in that regard. So there's the Ugin's Labyrinth. Are we pitching something underneath of it to get us 2 mana? Maybe not. I guess so. I mean, you've got... Yeah, so he's got all the things and all the stuff. Yeah, there's the Emrakul tucked underneath. So he had Emrakul and he had Through the Breach. So us really playing that bridge just kind of put a hard stop on us dying. And that's the thing. There's a 1 of in the sideboard, and you have to make those choices of, do I keep this in the sideboard in the hopes that I get Karn, right? Or do I bring this in? I opted to bring it in because Trinisphere was such a dead card that I had slots that I wanted to replace with cards that were useful. All right. Advantage meter still on Tron's side because we've got the 1 ring going, we've got the bridge. So we're in this position where we can start really building up towards something. Okay, Kozilek's. Yeah, there's the Kozilek's command. Instant speed. 2, 4, 5 mana. Get 3 for the X cost. So we're going to look at those 3, put some on the bottom, draw a card, make a lovely little set of Eldrazi spawns. You saw 2 cards get drawn because 1, he was supposed to draw off the Kozilek's command, and then, of course, drawing for turn. So now we have 2, 4, 6, 7 mana if you're casting an Eldrazi spell. Let's do, of course, that. He says, here's a Trinisphere. Take this, please. Devour, Dismember, Karn, and Emrakul. I make the joke that says, it just keeps getting worse the more cards that I'm revealing here. And so now you sit here and you have to identify what is the scariest things in the hand. Also identify what is the mana my opponent has, how much mana do they have access to. And so we explain, hey, I could pop this. There's Urza Saga in here. There's lands. There's enchantments. There's artifact. I have enough stuff that, guess what? I can cast any of these spells next turn. Because we'll have 7, 8, 9, 10 mana available to us. So Karn is the safe choice that gets exiled off Thought Not Seer. And now you at least have a blocker here. It's stupid ensnaring bridge, he says. Let's pop some. Do our own 1 ring. Let's kind of start digging for answers and try to find a way around this. I don't know, other than Beseiju, what answers our Through the Breach player might have. I think that's kind of their big thing that they're looking for now is let's go digging and try to find Beseiju. Let's kind of, you know, hope for something along those lines. Because like Beseiju gets found, we have everything we need. We have the Through the Breach. We have the Emrakul here. All we got to do is tap our Ugin's Labyrinth to return that to our hand. We just need a little bit more mana, right? We're like, if we're trying to cast Through the Breach, we essentially only have 4 mana to work with here. Like if we count the spawn and the couple lands, so we just need like 1 more, or hold on to that. Because, of course, you have to tap the Ugin's Labyrinth to return the exiled card to your hand, so you won't be able to tap it for mana that turn. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What do I have? 8 cards? I think I have 8 cards in hand. Oh, yeah. So let's cast this card. Now we get to shut down the ability to use the 1 ring. So that's cute and all, but what if your activated abilities no longer work? Now you can't dig for Beseiju and try to find your way out. And liquid metal coating, that worked out so well in the first game of being able to mess up our opponent's lands and stop them from being able to do the thing. take a damage to make a black mana to do some dismembering here. It all comes down to like we're losing 2 life. We got 2 colorless floating. Dismember that. We get a draw card. We're digging as well, looking for stuff. Disruptor Flute. Card's amazing. We've been seeing it a lot in sideboards. This Tron list was running it main board. And as battlefield, choose a card. So we could say Through the Breach. Through the Breach now costs 3 more mana in order to be able to cast it. And it's got that added bonus. Activated abilities of sorcerer with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So it's Pithing Needle plus a little bit of disruption added onto it. So like you could say the One Ring. Now if you want to activate the One Ring, it's going to be costing you 7 mana and you can't activate it. So basically shuts down people from using that. In this case, we say Through the Breach now costs 8 mana. Good luck. Now, Devourer of Destiny was used here. Get a blocker out. Also, it's like, okay, let me get rid of Bridge or something with this. But you go, oh, it only counts colored permanent. So there's these things like All Is Dust, Devourer of Destiny, that work out amazing in other matchups that just kind of are getting hosed right now because they can't interact with all these colorless permanents here. All right, lots of digging. That's the nice thing with the Karn is like, oh, I got to still use my stuff, and you don't. Let's dig. Let's replace it with our own One Ring. We're now looking for that threat, the answer to close out the game here. We've taken a lot. We've drawn a lot. You know, it's looking like time to play Emrakul and really kind of close it out. We need, let's see, artifact, enchantment, land, and instant. Artifact, enchantment, land, instant. 4 less it costs to be able to play. So there is 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's. Yes. And I was double checking. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Did you cast the One Ring last turn? Because, of course, when you cast it, you gain control of target opponent. Well, we can't target our opponent with the One Ring because if the One Ring was played last turn, it wasn't, so it's okay. We don't have to worry about it. But we get to be able to come on out with now our threat. Let's uptick and pop this. He says, I'm shortcutting. I'm tapping this. I'm popping that. We're blowing up your land, the one that has Emrakul on it, just to make sure you don't get access to that. And so I said, okay, now it is your turn. You lose 1 life. Oh, my gosh. They just drew the Beseiju. And look at this. Oh, my gosh. Oh. I mean, there's 2 pieces of hate they'd have to fight through, right? They got to fight through the Disruptor Flute. They got to fight through the Ensnaring Bridge. But you pop the Ensnaring Bridge, like you would have at least been able to start going. So I say, okay, let's do this. We could get them off the colored mana here. But by them searching, you know, I think they've got forests and things like that. That it's not. It doesn't. I don't think it matters too much. They probably want to run a single mountain as well. So getting rid of their Eldrazi Temple felt more impactful here. Oh, so they don't run a single mountain. I think it's worth it. You know, 2 forests, a mountain. You know, it's all the same. I like, you know, there's definitely land-based choices. We've got the waste in there instead of the mountains and stuff like that. It looks like to help make sure you can cast Thought Not Seers and Devourers of Destinies. There's a Stone Brain. Doesn't really help us here, and we get to start kind of getting into the untappy steps. We've got a big threat coming across. He says, I feel like I'm pretty locked out now. And yeah, We just got to find a way to pop our ensnaring bridge, which we do have this Haywire Might here in the board. Let's play this and be able to pop it. So tap this. There's our forest. Let's blow this up. Exile it. Gain 2 life. Now we can swing for damage. 13 damage coming across. Here's a nice little 2-turn clock. Yeah, protection from instances the Emrakul has. So you're like, well, can't path it. Can't, dismember it. I don't know why you would dismember it, but. All right. Anything? Nah, that's it. That's tough, too. It's like always a turn behind, it felt like. And this definitely felt like whoever went first had a big advantage of pushing their way forward here. I'm talking about how I took out Trinisphere because they were dead cards to bring in Ensnaring Bridge, something that probably wasn't on the radar there. So, game 1 went first, Tronless won. Game 2, Through the Breach went first, won. Game 3, Tron went first, won. But a big part of game 3 was all that hate and disruption. But hope you guys like this content. We're doing more modern action for you guys, so make sure you're subscribing, leaving some comments, spreading the word, all that good stuff. But thanks so much for tuning in and watching, everybody, and I'll see you all next game.